Hello everybody, my name is Eroine. Welcome back to another video. So today's video we will be looking at how to texture things in Minecraft using blocks and other things to change up the texture of your builds, make them a little more interesting and have lots of detail on them. So we're starting out with this fire pit that I built. It's not very hard to build, but I just placed a campfire in the middle of a square, and I'm grabbing some blocks to use to texture the area around it to make it look a little more interesting, look a little bit more like a fire pit and not just a random campfire sitting somewhere. So for this, I am starting out by using a shovel to create path blocks around the campfire, maybe from people walking around it or maybe from the grass being burned around it. I don't know. Either way, it does look very good in the context of things. And then, because you still need a little bit more, it still looks good, but it can look better, I added coarse dirt around there. Maybe some places where pebbles got mixed in with the dirt from stones surrounding the fire, or just pebbles that were there before. And then I added some cobblestone in for some larger rocks, and maybe some like patches of rocks, and added that in because it adds another color to the build, and that makes it more interesting when you have more than one color in the build. And so then I added the furnace texture, which is a strange choice, but not only is it functional because you can cook things in a furnace right around your campfire, where you can also cook food on the campfire, you also get this nice larger stone texture on the top of the furnace. Despite the line around it, I still think it looks really nice because it's a slightly darker, larger variant of the cobblestone texture if you ignore the line, and I think that looks good, but there are going to be plants growing around it, so I decided to try some grass. Wasn't quite sure if that was a thing, so I decided to try a fern. I liked that a lot better, so I placed those around, decided to get rid of the grass. And I was trying to place ferns around so they weren't too close together, but there weren't too few either. So I did a lot of placing and breaking and replacing. And honestly, this is just part of the process that you just have to destroy and rebuild and keep tweaking it slightly until you're happy with what you get. As you can see, I'm getting rid of ones that I think are too many or too close together. And then I'm tweaking it to make sure it looks great, and I think it looks great, so we're going to move on to the next one. So the next build is a plain stone wall. This is what I was going for in this one, was more of a natural look, so I'm using acacia logs, cobblestone, andesite, and light gray wool. So in a natural thing, you're going to want the bottom to be a little bit darker because it'll look more, it'll bring, especially on a larger scale, it'll bring the eye up, which is what you want. You want the eye to go upwards. And I was trying to keep the darker blocks on the bottom and the lighter blocks on the top. So the acacia log was at the very bottom. Then the cobblestone was the next darkest block. So I was using that, and then andesite. So that was mixed in higher up typically, but there are some lower down. And then I decided to mess around with where the blocks are. I tried placing cobblestone there, but then I decided that was too dark for that area, so I replaced a different block with cobblestone. And then I made sure I had all of those layers done, and I placed in some light gray wool for the lightest block in the block palette. And even though you might not think about using these blocks together to build, they do work quite nice to create a nice textured design. So the next build is a spruce wall, and we need to spruce it up a bit. Okay, that was a bad joke. Anyway, I'm trying to make it look a little bit weathered and a bit rugged, so I'm using spruce stairs, brown concrete powder, and oak logs to do so. So I get some indents in the wall, so some like places where the wall has been weathered away a bit, and maybe some larger spaces, and I just tried to plan out where those could go in the wall. And then I found out that I had two smaller ones on the same side and two larger ones on the same side, and I didn't think that was very balanced. So I changed that to be more equally balanced. And so then I started using the brown concrete powder to texture a bit. And the problem with if you're going to texture with brown concrete powder or any concrete powder in general is that it is affected by gravity. So you have to make sure you have a block underneath or some string or something to hold it up. And there you saw that I tried to use a stripped spruce log, but I didn't like it because there was a bit of a green texture to it and I didn't like that. So I decided to go with the oak logs, and I'm here playing around with the orientation of the oak logs and making sure that they face in different directions so it's visually interesting and it looks more natural. So I'm just checking all the orientations, making sure they look good, and I think I'm happy with that. So I am going to move on to the next wall, which is a stone brick wall. So for this, I wanted it to look like some of the stone bricks were crumbling a bit, maybe some moss was growing on them. So I used cobblestone, mossy cobblestone, cracked stone bricks, and mossy stone bricks. And for this one, you'll see that I used a bit of a different process from the other ones, as once I got my blocks, I started to replace the blocks one at a time, looking for places where I could put stuff. The bottom and the sides made more sense to keep the stone brick intact, but then here you see me going and destroying lots of the stone brick from the areas that I want to texture, and the areas left are the areas I want to keep as stone bricks. So you can see there's more cobblestone higher up in the wall and in like the middle rather than in the sides. So I wanted to make sure that the structural integrity would still look like structurally sound, even though cobblestones would not be the most structurally sound. So then this next one is a bit different. It's a tree, a custom tree. Now it does look good with just one type of leaves, but it could look better if we had multiple types of leaves. So I decided to mix in some birch leaves, just destroy and replace some of the oak leaves around there. Really simple, just destroy and replace, make sure the colors and the leaf shapes worked well together, and that makes it look more natural because trees' leaves are not all uniform. So I wanted to make it look a little more natural, so using that extra variant of leaves made it look a little more natural due to the difference in color and texture. So that makes it look a lot better, and there's a lot more depth to the tree now. So that looks a lot better. Then we are moving on to a path. So this is just a standard 3-wide path made with a shovel, path blocks, and it does work, but we can make it better, just like all these builds. So I grabbed some blocks, coarse dirt, regular dirt blocks, grass, and podzol, and I mixed those in. You could also use spruce planks if you're wanting a more like a road that has been built, but the wood part of the road is kind of mixing up. So that is another way you can do that. You can honestly mix any blocks into the walls as you want. These are just some examples of some pallets that I like to use. So here you can see me adding some path blocks to the outsides, making it look like people have walked in some places, but not all places. There's some places that are more walked on than others. Same with why I'm adding the grass blocks and the podzol and coarse dirt. They all indicate a different level of how much it's been walked on. The podzol looks like a bit of dead grass, so you can use that to indicate a part of the path that someone has walked on. People have walked on a bit, just trampled down the grass, killed it a bit, and then the coarse dirt is where the grass has been just completely destroyed, and the path is where the grass has really been packed down really solid. And then I added some ferns to add some natural greenery and make it look like the entire path wasn't cut up. Although if you're adding spruce planks to your path, I wouldn't recommend doing these in the middle of the path, or at least not as many, maybe a few, seeing as it would be growing through the cracks and not too common for it to be growing all that much. But just checking over my design one more time, adding a few more ferns. I think I'm happy with it, so I'm done. And that is all for me today. I hope this helped with your texturing, and I'll see you next time. Bye!